It's the Brad and John Show.
The Brad and John Show for Friday, May 30th. This is the B block, which means we start right around 7:20 or so, although we're way late this morning. It's all John's fault.
That was my fault. I kept goading you, Brad.
It's all John's fault. Okay, the reason I mentioned the date is because a lot of people listen to this in the future. Right now, we're broadcasting live on 104.5 KSOQ with a new and improved signal, which I personally helped on Wednesday night, but that's a whole nother story, and I'd be out there tomorrow tweaking the antenna again. But a lot of people listen to our Facebook page. Actually, they do listen somewhat on the Facebook page, but mainly on our bjshow.co show site, which is the essentially the traditional podcast, and then on the bjshow.us site. And John's giving me grief because it used to be.
I love it. Look at me celebrating over here. Let's change it after a year.
bshow.video. Okay. By the way, I don't know if you know this or not. Years ago, there was an interesting article in Riverfront Times, when Riverfront Times still existed, about Cougar Night in St. Louis. Did you ever know about this?
Ooh, no. Let me guess. Was it at Harry's, and were 42-year-old women recently divorced, grinding to late 80s rap songs?
Cougar Night, they gave like 3 or 4 different locations, and one of the prime locations was the Trainwreck Saloon out at Westport. Okay, that was one of the...
Oh, wow. Right? Yeah, okay.
That was one of the Cougar spots. And the other one was, I think it was Brio out there on the corner of Plastic Front and Back.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Brad, I've never heard Plastic Front and Back, and that is hilarious.
You've never heard that before?
I've never heard that. Boy, talk about women that have had a little tightening up done. I mean, that's the Brio patio in the summer.
So I went to one of the Cougar locations last night, and I won't say which one. And I walked up to a very attractive older woman, and I said hi to her, and she looked at me and she said,
"What would you do with a brain if you had one?"
I'm sorry, it's one of my...
And you said you would ask her where she got her filler and her Botox.
No, okay, moving on. Mark Cox this morning, yesterday, talked about it quite a bit.
It was almost in the top 3.
The official charges have been made. What's the first? The guy's name is Howells. What's
William
his first?
Howells. And Brad, until I saw the piece about KLIS, this was going to be in the top 3. I'm glad you mentioned this today, Brad. Go ahead.
Right.
And by the way, let me interrupt real quick. I'll interrupt myself. I have a link today to Mark Cox's morning show from yesterday, where Mark and the team talk about William Howells. I have a link up to that at johncombos.com today.
If you don't know the backstory, a guy, and what's the guy's name who's the owner of these? It's a Cybertruck, isn't it? Isn't that what he has?
Yeah, his name is Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk. Okay, he parked a couple times in Kirkwood, and on 2 separate occasions, a guy stuck an F Trump sticker or
Elon
Elon sticker on his Cybertruck. Okay. A printed sticker. So somebody had to contact a printing company, pay for these, have them printed, and they're giving these people, stickers out to people to stick on various Teslas or stuff like that. But what these people don't realize is, maybe they do realize, maybe they're just like out to say, we don't care if there are cameras on the Tesla. Twice, this Christian dude caught this dude sticking an F Elon sticker on his Cybertruck. And at one point in time, he followed him to one of the fancy schmancy coffee shops there on Kirkwood Road. Once again, they don't respect our great Charles A. Lindbergh, but that's a whole nother story. He followed him into the store and confronted him, and he denied it. Remember, if you watched the video, he denied it. So
yeah, and I believe you pointed out accurately, Brad, I believe it was Caldi's that he went into.
Yes, I believe it was Caldi's. Either that or Red Velvet. I think there's a place called Red Velvet. It could have been one of those two. Because when you look at the footage, I can identify the places in Kirkwood. And matter of fact, it's real easy, because when they actually have the video footage of the police being called, you see in the background Kirkwood Glass, which is right there on corner,
I interrupted you though, Brad.
Kirkwood and Adams. Okay, so the police did nothing. They said, there's nothing we can do. So apparently this has been pushed by Mark Cox and other people like that, saying, look, this is not right. He defaced his personal property, and he put an obscene word on the side of this guy's truck. So was it earlier this week? Was it Tuesday or Wednesday when...
Yeah, it was earlier this week, yeah.
The Kirkwood prosecutor officially has charged Mr. Howells with harassment, I believe. Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, I believe it's harassment. I mean, I'm pulling you can find this on CaseNet. And my favorite thing about this, Brad, is that in the citation or in the official paperwork, the officer, I guess, spells Tesla wrong. They spell positively wrong. Like, it's just, I mean, I don't mean to pick on our brave men and women in law enforcement, but you would think that they wouldn't be Brad Hildebrand. You would think that they would actually go back and like reread what they post, but I guess not. Anyway, it was harassment by other means as the charge. And the ticket says, subject placed 2 stickers in the victim's Telsa that was equipped with cameras and alerted the vehicle owner to the incident. That's a terrible sentence. That's a terrible sentence structure. The owner was able to show the video footage and positively. So I'm guessing that there should be more to that sentence. Positively identify Mr. Howells. So Mr. Howells now has a court date of July 22nd in Kirkwood.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that because of the fact that that he's probably going to get a slap on the wrist. He's going to pay a $10 court cost, and that'll be it. Don't you think?
Yeah, probably. And, Mark Cox has mentioned, I shouldn't say he's mentioned before. You've quoted him as saying before, so I don't know if that's actually reputable when you quote other radio hosts. But at first he wasn't sure if they had farmed out all the legal work to other attorneys or if they had their own team there. And apparently the gentleman who's the attorney on this case is from Lewis Rice.
Yeah,
so I think most folks know they're a prominent law firm in the St. Louis area.
I said that. Most of the smaller munis don't have their own prosecuting attorney. They farm that out to
which makes more sense.
Yes, because they can't afford a full-time prosecuting attorney. Okay, on to number 2. Now, John, rarely do I ever call you out as being incorrect. Rarely.
I want to hear it. If I'm
rarely
wrong,
I ever call you out. I've been talking about my fight with weeds at my transmitter sites, and I've been using all sorts of crazy stuff. And I mentioned the fact that there's certain things that sterilize the soil. And you said, no, there's no such thing that sterilizes the soil. Okay.
Yeah, like unless you're in a lab or somewhere like that, you're thinking of residual action. But you've looked it up, and what ChatGPT answer have you found?
It says, I asked, can chemicals make ground sterile? And the answer is yes, chemicals can make ground sterile. Soil sterilants are bare ground herbicides are designed to kill all vegetation and prevent its regrowth for extended periods, effectively making the ground sterile. These herbicides are used in areas where vegetation is undesirable, like along fence lines or parking lots. And then it goes on to say, there are many different sterilants you can use for chemical soil sterilization, including formaldehyde, phenols, creslic acid, ethylene oxide, and methyl bromide. So
this goes back to what I said yesterday on the show, Brad, that herbicides have what's called residual action, which is for an indeterminate period of time. Nothing can grow there. Now, Brad, what you're reading from that's using the word sterile? What is the source of this?
John Combest tells everything about the world. It's this new website.
No, but really,
I don't know.
Brad, did you put this in a generic ChatGPT inquiry?
No, I just went on. I didn't do a ChatGPT. I just went on Google. I said,
okay. So let me ask you again, Brad, more clearly. What is your source for using the word sterile?
Google.
No plant scientist, no person that is in a field actually spraying weeds uses the word sterile. And so what is your source for this besides, I Googled it and the results spit back the word sterile?
Well, no non-radio person uses the term imaging. So, the people.
There you go. Okay, so you're right, Brad. I appreciate you giving me credit for the fact that yesterday I said, which is what I've said all along, that some herbicides prevent any growth for an indeterminate period of time and nothing will grow there. That's not sterilizing the soil and saying nothing will ever grow there.
Okay. We'll agree to disagree. Okay.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you for that. Yes,
Next
I am correct.
thing.
Thank you.
Carolyn Levitt yesterday said what I've been saying all along. Did you hear this Carolyn Levitt quote?
I did not. I didn't hear it. I saw her on Fox News yesterday, Brad. I went to a place that you rarely go called a gym, and I saw her up on the screen.
I have a membership of Planet Fitness. I've been there within the last 48 hours, John.
Boy, if there's a place that's going to welcome a Brad Hildebrand, it's Planet Fitness. Go ahead, Brad. What'd she say?
She said that Jill Biden is guilty of adult abuse.
Not just elder abuse, but adult abuse.
Well, elder abuse, whatever. And she is also complicit in the cover-up of the dysfunctional nature of our former president. And I'm thinking, I've said that for like a year.
You have, Brad. You said that Jill Biden was the powerful force that actually kept people in the dark about how bad Joe was. You said that she enabled Joe. She told him things that whatever his brain could process that he wanted to hear. You were on top of that last summer, Brad.
And look, I know what you're going to say. People are going to say, well, she loves him so much, she can't give him the hardcore truth. Okay, I'm sorry, but if you have a loving relationship, and at some point in time, I saw this with my own parents. At some point in time, my mother started to go off the deep end. And my father called her out in front of me on a couple occasions. And it was hard to listen to, but he was right. She was losing her mind. She was, going somewhere. We don't know where she was. She wasn't in her right mind. And she was a brilliant woman. My mom and dad were both highly educated people. My dad was a civil engineer and became an eternal student. He was the campus civil engineer for SIU Residual. He had, I don't know how many degrees. He'd take all classes all the time. My mom had 2 bachelor's and a master's degree. It was sad to see it happen to her, but my father called it out. Just like Jill Biden should have called out her husband and said, instead she goes on after the debate where Joe Biden made a fool of himself, and she goes, I got to pull that quote. I keep hearing other stations. Didn't Joe do great? He answered every question. It's like, and the crowd goes, yeah! I'm going like, how blind can you be? I mean, John, in the timeline of the 2024 election, let's be honest, that debate, was that in June? That debate was like a huge mark in the timeline of the 2024 election. Wouldn't you agree? Because
I can't think of a more important point with the possible exception of the attempted assassinations.
Right, exactly.
There was nothing more important than Joe Biden had. Trump's line of, I don't know what he said just there. And honestly, I don't think he knows either. I think that was the moment.
And what was interesting was Trump has been complimented for that line because Trump could have really gone for the jugular. But Trump said that in a very non-Trumpian style, in that he used, as my old program director would say, an economy of words which really pointed out the situation very succinctly, right?
Yes, I agree, Brad.
and for her to have a rally after the debate and go, Joe was so great, he answered every question. I mean, it's like to the point where I don't care if she loves him more than any mortal person that loves another person in their life. There comes a point in time, I don't have a wife, so it will never probably happen to me, but maybe I'm already past that point. If I was married, some woman would say to me, my wife would say to me, Brad, I listened to your show this morning with John. You know what? That should be your last show. You've lost it, dude.
Yeah, well, I feel like I kind of play the wife role often here too, Brad, but pause on that whole situation. But I think 2 things can be true, Brad. I think that Jill Biden can be a loving spouse and support him publicly, but she still could have, to exactly to your point, Brad, she could clap for him in public and then behind closed doors say, Joe, this is not right. Like, you've got to step away.
Okay.
And I agree with you completely. If you have people in your life who continually lie to you or tell you what you want to hear, they're no friends at all.
Right. Okay. I don't mean to push along here, but I got to call our guest, who you apparently know. Now, but there's one other White House story that I promised my guest we'd only do 5 minutes with him, so I didn't want to tie up his day.
Oh, he'll take 10. He's like you, Brad. He'll talk for 15 if you give him 5.
Bob Frischmann, who was one of my students when I taught at 270 Tech, the colloquial name for Florissant Valley Community College, is up next.